All right, Shalom. It's the brother Quashab coming at you with another lesson. Now, before I get started, I want to give our praises, glory, and honors to Yahweh, Bahashim Yahweh Shai, Bahashim HaKodash, Dabans to the apostles and the elders of Great Millstone, who taught me this truth and rule well in peace, blessings, salutations be to the hopefully elect, as well as those that believe in the gospel, and may you endure to the end, Lord willing. And I just want to get into this lesson, all right, on this video I was watching earlier. Definitely a must-watch, for brothers that's into these type of things and the things that they are actually poisoning us with in the food, all right? It really makes you really and truly not want to eat a goddamn thing, all right? But, that's just not sustainable for us, man, all right? And they definitely went into, some good information, about the different things that you might think, is cool, it's better alternatives, all right, and what this devil is doing now, all right, like the elder brother down here always go into with this new speak, these different things and different, the wordplay, is getting out of hand, all right? So now, as you can see, it says natural flavors, in which I've been seeing this as an ingredient in a lot of food, over the past year or two. It's something new, all right? No longer see artificial, all right? But now it's just natural flavors, right? In which if food is naturally that way, you wouldn't have to put it on the ingredients, all right? It's just already that. This is what it is. If it's water, you don't have to put on the ingredients water, okay? But this is the consequences and the repercussions, all right, straight from Yahweh Bashim Yahweh Shai, But I'm gonna let this video play a little bit, then I get some precepts, and I get out of here, Lord willing, is edifying.
1851, scientists created the world's first artificial flavorings. By the late 1800s, there were a total of 20 basic artificial flavors on the market, and they were being used in a bunch of drinks and candies that were quickly gaining popularity. But even then, they were more novelties than something you ate every day. That all changed with the start of World War II. Ever tried to keep an entire family happy eating one simple cooked meal? There's always going to be someone who doesn't eat onion or hates mashed potatoes. Now imagine trying to keep your entire army, millions of soldiers, happy with this. There were no fridges or ovens on the front lines in World War II, so soldiers were given these delicious rations of canned beef or bacon, canned biscuits, coffee, sugar, and some salt. Yum! Now, imagine eating that exact same thing 3 times a day for months and months on end while fighting a war. Yeah, it sucked. Within days, most of the soldiers would start complaining, stop eating, and quickly lose morale. And as Napoleon said, the army marches on its stomach. So if the US military couldn't figure out a way to give these soldiers better tasting food, they would lose the war. These were soldiers who were used to eating 3 square meals a day, cooked by their loving wives or mothers. How was the military supposed to replicate stews and roasts in a tin can? You try canning roast chicken and trying it after it sat on your shelf for a few weeks. It's not a great experience.
And I'm gonna say this, that's not what food is meant to do, all right? You're supposed to cook food the same day, man, all right? You buy something from the store, you go cook it, all right? The other alternative would be to what? Freeze it, okay? Not to let cooked food sit in a can or jar for months or weeks on end. This food in the stores, you don't know how long these things will have been packaged, all right? Let alone sitting on the shelf. But you go buy it and you eat it, and that's where we at with it today, okay?
And that's when it hit them. Artificial flavorings. Freshly made macaroni and cheese might not last more than a day or two, even if it's refrigerated. But pasta in cheese-flavored sauce? Especially when the cheese flavor was nothing more than chemicals that could last for years without going bad? Winner, winner, mac and cheese dinner. So the milk...
And, growing up as a kid, child, coming up, our parents would buy food and we would actually, see the food go bad, right? Nowadays, you don't see anything go bad, all right? I can't remember the last time I brought bread and it molded, man. After a week or two, I just throw it away, Jake got to get the recipes just to make the bread at home, You try to stick to the healthy options, try to go with the sourdough bread and the different things like that, Yeah, it's alternative things to it, but it comes with a price, you see? And we don't have the luxury of spending $1,000 on our groceries every time we go to the damn grocery store just to make sure everything is, quote unquote organic. All right. And fair use is not medical information. All right. Just teaching the scriptures. But this is what we have left to deal with. You see, like I said, this is the consequences and the repercussions from not following the law, statutes, and commandments that was given unto us by Yahweh Shah. All right.
Terry threw its full support behind the artificial flavoring industry, which quickly came up with banger after banger. Spaghetti in tomato-flavored sauce. Canned beef that tasted like the roasts you had back home, but definitely wasn't. Fruit-flavored candies that had zero fruit in them at all, and the list goes on. Not only were artificial flavors getting soldiers to eat again, they were doing it at a fraction of what making real food would have cost. Sure, none of the food had any real nutritional value, but that didn't matter. As long as they had enough calories to keep soldiers going for a few months, they could deal with the nutrient deficiencies later. In the eyes of the food industry, artificial flavors were the real war heroes. And when all those soldiers eventually came home craving that tomato or cheese flavor that only you could create, or picking at their home-cooked meals because the flavors weren't as strong as they had gotten used to in the military, that's when the light bulb moment went off. You realized you hadn't just managed to keep soldiers fighting. You had inadvertently discovered how to get people addicted to your food. By using these delicious artificial flavors only you could make. You realized that if a few artificial flavors could get people hooked on otherwise cheap garbage food, how addictive could you make it if you really spent time optimizing everything about the processed foods you created? If you studied exactly what textures and tastes would keep people wanting more, you would basically be able to get the entire...
Real quick, come back to the Ezekiel. Just precept in Psalms. All right, that's why the scriptures tell you thou art wiser than Daniel. Anytime that you can go into a lab, all right, that's why I say it's nothing but, the spirit and power of Yahweh Bashir Shah on the left-hand side. With this devil doing the things that he does, being the devil, Psalms 64 and verse 6, it says, they search out iniquities, they accomplish a diligent search, both the inward thought of every one of them, and the heart is deep, right? Their minds go far to imagine mischief, all right? Tell you in Proverbs that they can't sleep unless they have caused something to fall, I believe Proverbs 4:16. So this devil's, actually was in the lab figuring out how to put, the Goyim, all right, to feed them in the wars that they're funding and ultimately destroy, the Goyim bodies, all right, deteriorate them over time using these chemically made flavors, all right, in which the natural flavors is the new artificial flavors, man, all right, in which they're gonna go into it, but I'm not gonna play the whole thing. I just got a little bit left. I'm gonna left to play, and I'm gonna get a few precepts, All right, just going into how our bread is just totally defiled, man. All right, and at some point, we just got to get the hell out of here, man. All right, at some point, we just got to get the hell up out of here, man. You know, except those days be short and the elect for the elect's sake, you know.
World hooked on your food products as if you were selling crack. And so, it became an arms race to finally be able to get the entire world hooked on your food products as if you were selling crack.
Come on, man. And then you can see it, especially here in America, right? Which is why they have some of those things that are banned in Europe, you know, but it's not banned here, you know. These Americans are through. That's why you see these Jakes got a bowl of cereal every 2 hours, man. Going to the chicken spot, getting them a 15-piece with fries, you know, because their minds is addicted to the sugar. Okay? That's why, you know, starting with the elder apostles on down, you know, it's been preached to practice fasting. You know, watch what you eat. Keep your body in good shape. Work out. All right? These things are good. You see? But I got a little bit more left.
And so, it became an arms race to find out what exact combination of flavors or textures would make the most addictive food. Starting with the most basic ingredients in all processed foods: salt, sugar, and fat. Welcome to Evil Food Supply. And this is how the world became addicted to processed food.
Right. And, you know, they going to get into it, man. You know, so I definitely encourage brothers. I'll leave it in the comment section. You know, check this video out. All right. Watch what you eat. Okay. Even though, yeah, we know our bread is defiled. All right. Yeah, we know that. But still try to at least eat a little better, you know. Because this devil is at war with the, like I said, the whole Newspeak, changing the yellow 5, the blue, red 40, the blue 1, the food dyes. He's changed all the names. You know, you don't even see yellow 5, red 4. You don't really see that as a on the back of stuff with those food dyes. You know, the brother put it in the chat with an article on the new names that, you know, that's using. It's crazy. We go in the store and we spend 15 minutes just looking at the ingredients on the back of everything. It's ridiculous, man. You know? Absolutely ridiculous, man. All right? And these things is coming to the point to where it's getting outrageous, you know? Jake, watch what we eat because we try to keep the dietary law to the best of our ability, you know? And they come to find out this devil just putting pork and cheese. For what? For what? But this is the punishment, all right, that we have to serve, you know? And you go and read the comment section, there's a lot of people on game, you know? But, and this is a good one right here. It says big food making people sick is exactly what Big Pharma loves, all right? Because they make you sick and you have to go to them for what? The solution. Or let's put you on these pills. Let's give you these shots, you know? Why? Because you don't know how to control your damn diet, man. And that's why all of these, the majority of these Americans, all right, are sick, man. You know, because of the food that they eat, all right? So we're going to get Sirach, the 30th chapter, all right? Get a few more. It's the book of Sirach, chapter 30. And I'll start at verse 14. It says, better is the poor being sound and strong of constitution than a rich man that is afflicted in his body. So I'd rather be poor, all right, having a sound mind, having a good diet, all right, than to be what? Rich, all right, and just eating bullshit all the time. Because what comes with that? More health problems, you know? More health problems. Why? Because you got money, so you just basically eating and doing whatever you want to do, right? There's nobody preaching to you about keeping your body in good shape, watching what you're eating. You know, that's all this world is about, money. You know, it says verse 15, it says, health and good state of body are above all gold, and a strong body above infinite wealth. There is no riches above a sound body, and no joy above the joy of the heart. All right. And that's why, you know, that statement is made often in the world. Health is wealth. All right. Know better, do better. You see, you shouldn't have if you, especially in the truth, you shouldn't have the diet of a 2/3 nigga, man. All right. Knowing to try niacinamide and all these different things, that the chemicals that they put in the food, you know, that you eat, you go with the other option, man. You know, try not to. Okay, not saying you have to, but try not to, man. Right? Because we all gonna eat poison, you know, and that's basically what the foul bread is. It's poison. All right. So let's get that in Luke 4, and I'll start at 11. It says, "Thou shalt drink also water by measure, the sixth part of a hin, from time to time shalt thou drink, and thou shalt eat it as barley cakes, and thou shalt bake it with dung that cometh out of man in their sight." You see? And hey, man, if you gotta, come on, man. All right? It says, thou shalt bake it with dung that cometh out of man. You know? And this is what we're eating. It's literally the brother Kaya went into a couple months ago. All right? On how I think is the natural flavors is actually, some of these natural flavors is coming out of a beaver's anus, man. All right? A beaver's anus. And it's straight out of the scriptures. This is a prophecy. All right? Not one jot or tittle to all be fulfilled. Okay? So they're literally putting things in the food made out of a beaver's ass, man. You know, you go to these restaurants and different things eating out, and you don't know what the hell they putting in the food. You see? So our brothers need to learn how to cook, eat at home, so you can see what you're putting in your food, man. Because they'll have you eating any goddamn thing out there, you know? It says, verse 13, "And Yahweh said, even thus the children of Israel eat their defiled bread among the Gentiles, whither I will drive them." You see? So, hey, man, it said we're going to eat our bread defiled. This is a prophecy. You read in the NLT, it says, "Then the Lord said," Salakia, let the ambulance pass. It says, "Then the Lord said, this is how Israel will eat defiled bread in the Gentile lands to which I will banish them." All right. And we all eating defiled bread, right? We go into this word defile. Let's put it up real quick. Salakia, 1 second. All right, when you go into this word defiled, it says H2931, unclean, ethically and religiously, ritually of places, defiled, polluted. All right, pollution. And our bread, all right, our food here in America especially, is ethically, spiritually, all right, and physically defiled, man. All right, but this is what we get. You know, this is a part of our judgment. All right, living here in Babylon the Great, man. All right, let's see if it say in the NLT. It says, defile, to desecrate, profane, to make foul or dirty, to rape or deflower. Right, when you go into the actual law and defiling a woman, you know, But as the woman of the Most High, we've been totally defiled. All right, we've been deflowered, man. All right, it says to trample down, to ill treat, to dishonor. All right, and that's pretty much the point. All right, we've been made foul or dirty as a people. You know, especially through the foods, especially through the things that Esau Edom has put in the water, the air, everything. The whole, hey man, just throw the whole earth away. All right. But that's why their first order of business, all right, these devils are going to have to what? Clean the earth, man. All right? Because it's completely out of course, you know? I want to get this account in Mark, you know, just to show how cleanly our traditions was, all right, our heritage was, okay? This is Mark chapter 7, verse 2. It says, and when they saw some of his, I'll just read the whole thing in NLT. It says they noticed that some of his disciples failed to follow the Jewish ritual of hand washing before eating, right? And you're supposed to wash your hands, you know, before you eat. You know, you've been out and about touching all kind of different things. Before you put food in your mouth, you're supposed to wash your hands, to clean your hands, right? It's the cleanly thing to do. It tells you in Timothy that cleanliness is next to godliness, man. All right? These are the things that we did as a nation, right? It says, for the Jews, especially the Pharisees, do not eat until they have poured water over their cupped hands, as required by their ancient traditions. Similarly, they don't eat anything from the market until they have immersed their hands in water. This is but one of many traditions they have clung to, such as the ceremonial washing of the cups, pitchers, and kettles, all right, in which they were being hypocrites. You know, Yahweh Shai rebuked them for it. But I just want to bring this account out of, you know, actually our people being cleanly, you know. And this is actually how we lived as a nation, you see. But that's pretty much the point, man. You know, that's all I ended there. You know, Lord willing, this lesson was edifying. So with that, I'm going to give all praises, glory, and infinite honors unto Yahweh, Bahashem, Yahweh Shai, Bahashem, Rachak, Wadash, and Shalom, Rabarakim, Lahabakarim. Till next time, Shalom.